Welcome to the Just Zander podcast. I'm your host, Zander Gray, and this is episode 15. Episode 15. Wow, it's been a week and it feels like a lot has changed, at least in the studio. Of moving stuff around, had to move the desk that I had out in the living room, and then I bought like a little desk that you can stand it up. Anyway, not that important. Okay, so today, to be completely honest, I am a little hesitant about today to talk about what I wanted to talk about, and it's about my dad. So last week on Sunday, let's see here, what's the date? Sorry if it's here. The date was on Sunday, was the 21st. Okay, so that was Father's Day. I was pretty quiet that day because there's really nothing to say about it. So I want to talk about my dad this podcast. So it's gonna be weird. So I don't know. I didn't really plan it out. All I said to myself was I was gonna talk about my dad in this episode. So, and the relationship that I have and had and have with him. Okay, so, all right. As you all know, or at least most of you, I was born in Singapore. I moved out here when I was about 16 years old. And my parents got divorced when I was about 13 years old. Let me move this. Sorry. I keep messing up. There we go. Yeah. So my parents got divorced when I was about 13, moved out here when I was about 14, 15 years old. So I lived with my mom, and my mom kind of remarried, got divorced. Anyway, so that's my mom. Anyway, so about my dad. So when I was younger, to be completely honest, he cared until I was 10 years old, and then he stopped caring. My parents worked all the time, so he was never really there at all. It seems like he always had a problem with me. So I have a sister too. I have an older sister, and my sister was pretty much like the perfect child. You know, she was really good at school, and she was his favorite. You know, I was only interested in sports at the time. I loved playing sports. I played soccer. I played badminton. I played anything physical. I loved to do. I was in judo classes. I was doing track and field. Nothing too crazy. I think we're just doing sprints, and I just love being super duper active. And I was a boy, you know, I was a young boy and full of energy. But my favorite thing to do was playing soccer. Like I wanted to be a professional soccer player. Anyway, and you know, I'm Asian and I have Asian parents, and he pushed more on studies, and I had to get straight A's, you know, typical stuff, Asian parents stuff, tiger parents type of thing. And yeah, so he was never around. He stopped pretty much giving a shit about me when I was 10. So he just like, whatever. I was a lost cause to him. Okay, at least in my perspective, my opinion. And so I was lucky that, so being an Asian family, my grandparents stayed with us, on my mother's side. And my grandpa was pretty much my father figure. However, he was old, you know, he was older. So he didn't really get to do a lot of things that a normal father would do, a normal papa would do, you know? And, you know, so the proverbial playing catch with your kid. So I didn't have that when I was a kid. Like literally, I didn't have that. I taught myself how to play sports. I taught myself how to ride a bike. Um, I I pretty much wanted to learn how to ride a bike, so I took the training wheels off. I don't remember how old I was. I was pretty young, and I just learned how to do it myself. I was very independent when I was a kid. I'm decently independent now, but I was very independent when I was a kid. I did a lot of things on my own. That's where I think that's where I have friends and stuff, close friends, but I never really connected with a lot of them because I grew up pretty much alone in a sense. My sister was 4 years older than I am, so she had her own friends, and we never really had a relationship. And growing up in an Asian household, we don't really talk about feelings and stuff. I remember that we don't really, and a lot of the stuff that I've learned that I did for myself and on my own are either TV, movies, or just pure perspective from just seeing on the outside and inside, you know? So a lot of, I didn't have a father figure. I didn't, besides my grandpa, but again, like I said, he's much, much older. So he couldn't really do the things that a normal father would do. So, but I remember hanging out. I remember going to get haircuts together and stuff like that. But we never did things that are father and son type thing. But I count him as my father, you know. So anyway, back to my dad. So he had a lot of demons that he had to face. Now that I'm realizing it, because you know, to put again, growing up Asian, we don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about necessary things that you need to talk about when you're stressed or when you don't feel 100%, you know, and that I'm discovering myself now, being older, being in my 30s, you know. So I'm really saying it out loud. I'm just thinking back right now, currently, but yeah. So my upbringing was a little weird. Maybe it's similar to most people. Maybe it's not. You know, again, like I said, our lives are very unique to you. You can only speak on your own perspective. You can relate to a lot of things to other people, but most of the time, a lot of your experiences and a lot of how you lived your life or living your life is very unique to you. And depending on your perspective, depending on maturity. Anyway, I digress. So, yeah, so I remember when my parents got divorced, he wanted to get back at my mom, so he decided to hang out with me a lot because, you know, at the time when you go through a divorce or whatever, we have to choose which parent we wanted to go to. I knew for a fact that I was going to go with my mom, but I think he was trying to get back at my mom, so he started spending time with me. He started playing basketball with me and going on walks or whatever. I knew what I was 13, but I knew what he was doing. I knew that this was short-lived. I knew that he was just doing all that to gain favor from me. I don't know if he did anything with my sister, like hung out or whatever, but they have a really good relationship together. Like he loved my sister, loves my sister. He's still alive. He loves my sister. But so we played basketball together. We hung out a lot, but I knew it was very short lived. I knew that it wasn't real. But however, I still enjoyed it. I still loved the time that I spent with them because that was the first time at the time in my entire life that it felt like a father and son thing. But again, it was short lived. I picked. So when we went to court or whatever, obviously I picked my mom. Again, I'm just trying to remember again. I'm starting from the beginning. So this might be a 2 or 3 parter. So bear with me. And okay, so I picked my mom, and he was not having it. He was not he was angry. He was bitter. So he stopped hanging out with me, obviously. And then that was that. And but before my parents got divorced, their relationship was so bad that my mom left for 2 years. She just left the house. Okay. So I'm trying to tell the story chronologically, so I might jump around. So bear with me, because I've never really talked about this in detail as of right now. I didn't want to write it down. I knew I was going to talk about my dad, so here we go. Okay, this is as real as it gets. So yeah, so my mom left for 2 years. She just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. So she left. She left the house. She wrote a letter to me and my sister. And so I was 11. I was young. My sister was, 11 plus 4 is 15. She was 15, And I don't remember if I understood why. All I knew was she couldn't do it anymore. All I knew was she was unhappy, very unhappy. So she decided to leave. And she apologized to us, to me and my sister. And every once in a while she calls in and talks to me. But those 2 years was pretty much a blur because, again, like I was a kid and I was just spending time hanging out with friends and being by myself and wasn't really thinking a lot out of it. But maybe psychologically it did a thing. Now, maybe I didn't have any separation anxiety or separation disorder or anything or whatever it's called. I was numb to it. I was numb. And every once in a while we'll meet up for dinner or whatever, but she was gone. She was gone for 2 years. And then when the divorce was settled and I went with my mom, she decided to move to the land of the free. I don't know about now in 2020, but in America. My sister didn't want to go because she was already settled. She was in school. So when we started moving here after the divorce, I was about 14, 15. So let's say 15. So my sister was 19, going on 20, and she was going to school. She has a very serious boyfriend. So there's no way for her to come with me. I had friends. I had a life, but there was no stake in living in Singapore anymore because I wanted more. I wanted to play music. I wanted to explore. So I said yes. I wanted to go with her. So that's for another time. So anyway, I didn't talk to my father after the divorce for years. Every once in a while I go visit, but it was more like I just visited and said hi, we hung out. It was more like we were friends and it was more like we were brothers instead of father and son, he would randomly buy me shoes or whatever, but looking back now, like he was miserable. He wasn't a good father. He was miserable. His life didn't go the way he wanted it to, I'm pretty sure. And I hated him for a long time. I hated him for a very long time. And my grandpa died when I moved back. I saw him a couple of times, but it just didn't feel the same anymore. I was numb yet again. I was numb with what's going on. And so every Father's Day, it just wasn't, it was numb. I just feel numb. You know, especially when you look through social media and you see people post about their fathers and how much they respect and love their father and how they shaped their lives for who they are. I wasn't I wasn't envious, not at all, and I wasn't angry. It was more like, that's awesome. Like, as in that they had a chance to have a good relationship with their father and had that connection and relationship with their fathers, you know, and I didn't have that. I think I mean, and growing up not having a mentor or have somebody to look up to. So that's why I look up to, you know, like a person like Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali and musicians and whatever. But it was I never had a chance to really talk to somebody or really open up to somebody. And a lot of it, and I think I spent a lot of my youth in my head talking to myself in a sense where I had to be mature quick in a sense. You know, I'm still playful and silly, but like I said, I learned a lot from TV and just from perspective, experiences. And a lot of it I had to my inner conscience kind of thing. And you know, I just talk to my ego and talk to my conscience and my mind. I know there's a word for it, but I can't think of it right now. So, yeah, this is weird to just think about it, about my past, because I've never really shared this story with anybody. And I don't even know where I'm going with this story, but I just wanted to share with you my experience and my thoughts on Father's Day. And I think, well, wow. Sorry for the pauses. It's just, I, I just don't know what to say sometimes, you know, when it comes to that. So I was 31 or 2, I think 31. And this is after years of not talking to him. I have his number, you know, he still lives in Singapore, and you can use WhatsApp, you know, to talk to anybody from anywhere around the world if you have Wi-Fi. And, you know, my mom and my sister are always like, hey, you need to wish him happy birthday. You need to check in on him. And I'm like, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, I'm like, why? I don't like him. I don't respect him. I hate him. Fuck him. He's an asshole. A lot of it. Why should I say hi? Why should I blah, blah, blah? Like, you know, and then my mom and my sister's like, well, he's your dad. I'm like, so the fuck why? What? You know? So what? I don't care. He was never really my dad. He's my biological dad by blood, sure, but what has he taught me? What has he done for me? You know? And I was angry. And finally, I listened to, you know, a bunch of podcasts, and I was listening to this one random podcast. I can't really remember what it was, but they talked about forgiveness. They talked about, I knew, and this is what I was listening to, I knew that my dad wasn't a perfect dad. I knew that he was not happy and stressed out. He was going through I have to be empathetic. And I just was thinking about it. And empathy is such a superpower that you have no idea, because most of the time when somebody's angry at you or somebody's just taking the world out on you, most of the time it's not you. Most of the time it's them. And you can never know what they go through in their life to be that way. So I was empathetic to my dad, and I thought about it, and I knew that I couldn't move forward without forgiving my father, without taking a chance. You know, and I talked to my sister about it a little bit on WhatsApp or whatever, and she was like, you know, that his biggest regret was you. Like, his biggest regret was he wasn't there for you, and he wasn't a good father to you. And I was like, okay. I was like, I know. But I had to forgive him. I had to be empathetic to what he went through. I had to, because as far as I know, he had nothing. He was living alone. In Singapore, there's universal health care, and I think he has a pension. And he works for his apartment complex. I think he's like a custodian on the side, part-time or whatever. And that's all he does. And he spends time with my sister every once in a while when the time occurs, dinner or whatever. And he would spend time with his brothers. And his brother passed away, my uncle, a long time ago. So he was, oh, no, I'm sorry. His brother moved. So now he doesn't have anybody. And I was just remembering back, his parents, my grandparents on his side, his parents died, passed away when I was a really young kid. He was, I don't know what happened in his history. I didn't ask him. I know I could, but he got adopted by another person, and he lived his life that way and became somebody else. So there's a lot of history that I have no idea. Again, growing up Asian, we don't talk about stuff like that. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about our past. I know very little about my parents. That's why I did the 23andMe, because I needed to know exactly what I was. That's why I'm very heavy in like culture and building relationships and knowing people, because I didn't have that growing up too much. We had family gatherings, but it was just a family gathering. Nobody really knew each other. They knew the bad stuff. They gossip. They do all that crap. Anyway, so I had to forgive him. So finally I messaged him on WhatsApp. And I was at work. I was upset. I broke down in the bathroom because I was crying, because I was like, I had to let everything go. And I messaged him. I said, hey, I forgive you. I love you. I hope you're well. I think that's it. It was short. And he apologized. We're cool now, but I love him. I care about him. He's my dad, and I forgive him wholeheartedly. I forgave him. There's no ill intent towards him anymore, and I hope him well. But we don't have that relationship, so it's hard to. I sent him some money. I check in on him every once in a while, especially with what's going on, and he's super religious now. So really, that's it. Like I don't know a lot about him, and I guess I could start, but there's such a language barrier as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's a little bit about my past, about my father. So a lot of that has happened has made me who I am now, and I'm still figuring it out, and I always still figure it out. I just wanted to share my story about that a little bit. So now you know. I might continue this in the future. So let's just leave this as part one. There's more to come about this story. But so that's it. That's it for the episode. I'm gonna plug a few things, and then I want to have a last segment that I've created, and that's what am I grateful for. Okay, so I want to plug a few things. I finally got some songs done. I'm releasing a single on July 14th, my birthday. It's a Tuesday. The song is called On Time. It's about putting in the work and doing things that you need to do to get to where you need to go, and everything's going to happen in time, on time. That's how it's always going to be. So I wrote a song about that. So it's going to be out July 14th. It's called On Time, everywhere. So it's done. Finally, I'm going to start releasing singles now. And thank you for listening. You can find me on @justzander and on Instagram and @justzandergray, everything else, everywhere else. So, okay, let's end the show right now. What am I grateful for? I am grateful for my upbringing, even though it wasn't amazing. It wasn't the best that I've had, but that's only my experience, you know. So I am happy that I am who I am today because of my upbringing. I'm grateful that I've discovered empathy, and I'm happy that I'm grateful that I have a chip on my shoulder because I always have something to prove to myself and to all the haters. But most of the time, I have grateful that I have the life that I have right now, with the family that I have right now, and that I was given a chance to forgive my father. I'm really grateful about that. Anyway, so thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. I know today was a little weird, but it had to come out. Went longer than I expected. But thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day, and take it easy. All right, peace.